Welcome to Beer Fuel.
Beer Fuel.
I am your host. All right, we have no listeners yet anymore. Well, welcome to Beer Field. I'm your host.
We have enough.
I am your host at Beerfield Hop, as always, joined by Beerfield Theory, who forgot we were recording early this week because I will be in Kentucky at the end of this week for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. So, Dan, how are you? Good round of disc golf, I hear.
Yeah, I got a run of disc golf in. I think I'm almost over whatever bug I got that took me out over the weekend. Should be survived a lot of good fantasy matchups. I think most of my teams went unscathed in terms of injuries, and both my favorite teams lost in overtime in glorious fashions of turnovers. I'm glad to be here.
I did think
1 week down, 16 to go.
That's right. I did thankfully escape the injury bug this week. I did not escape some ineffectiveness. Looking at you, Aaron Rodgers. So, pretty mixed bag. Overall positive. So, I think I won in about half and not in the others. Like, Nick's team's a juggernaut in our home dynasty league. He just, I didn't have a bad week, and he still walked me.
Nick's team is like, it's the Peyton Manning of home dynasty teams. Like, great regular season, dominates throughout, and then just finds a way to disappoint once the playoffs start.
Yeah. And I mean, stacked, right? Like, no hope of beating him, even going into that. It's like, you just look at his team, you're like, there's no way 2 or 3 guys just dud on this. And I had some guys, overperform and still just, nope.
Yeah.
I still lost by, 12.
No, Nick's got a very strong team. And he will, and he'll continue to have one. I mean,
he will.
Yeah, that's just where he's at. And
beauty of dynasty. He's built it well.
Yeah, and it does take a bit of luck, but he's also had his bad luck really does come in the postseason.
In the playoffs, yep.
Yeah, that's just what happens.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, despite Aaron Rodgers, I took that. Yeah, I don't want to say I got walked by Nick. It was close, but I mean, it's just juggernaut of a team. So
that's just how it goes. I mean, it was close. And we've talked about this. This is one of the very few dynasty leagues that even in his 5th year, it's very hard to find. There's a lot of teams that are going to probably be trying to compete. And now with me bumping the playoffs up to 6 teams instead of 4, I think you're going to see a lot more teams go for it. It'd be very interesting to see how it looks like in about 6-7 weeks, and you start to see teams trying to bow out.
Yeah, with injuries and things like that. Because I mean, most teams are built well or on the way to being built well. It's just a matter of, who are the injury bugs going to get?
Exactly. That's the truth.
What things happen that you don't plan for. That being said, we try to make sure you're prepared. So before we get into today's episode, just a reminder, Sunday mornings every week, 10 to 10:15 time frame, we're going to be live streaming. We're going to be doing more during that live stream than we have in years past. There will be chock full of betting advice. We will be doing a little more game preview-y type stuff there rather than trying to fit it into a 3-hour once-a-week episode. Obviously, all of your start-sit questions, which you could start week 1 with those. Some great discussion around that. So make sure on YouTube, because Sunday is a YouTube-only show, you go subscribe, hit the notification icon, Beerfield Podcast. Come hang out with us on Sunday mornings if you're a bettor or you're a fantasy football player. Get your questions answered. We'll give you one opinion. Good news with us, like we keep saying, we're not big. So you're going to get an answer from us if you have a question.
Yeah, we're not going to do we're not like other streams that have a very difficult time keeping up, and that's a good problem to have. I mean, obviously, well deserved to get the fan bases that they get, but you'll get long debated answers from us.
You will.
Whether right or wrong, we'll definitely give you our thoughts.
Something we said on Monday helped my boss win on Sunday helped my boss win $2,600.
Ooh,
on a bet.
What was what we said that helped him win?
It was playing out all the various scenarios of Bills Steelers. Actually,
and it went the most probable scenario in my mind.
Yep, it did, and that's what he bet on happening, and it played out, and he had stacked that with a couple other things, and ended up hitting good. So
I'm glad that one did, because it was a struggle. Those games, they're what? The Eagles game, I thought was going to easily go over, went under. The Titans game, I think barely went under.
I hit no leg of that 5-leg parlay I put in on the Sunday morning show.
Colts, I mean, Atlanta not doing their job, which really hurt. The Colts not doing their job for majority of that game didn't help. So it was a bit ugly.
What was the bad one for Green Bay? Just laying an egg.
Oh, that
I mean, I was
everybody
spot on, really, about maybe Vegas knows something we don't. I just didn't expect it to be that extreme.
I mean, I think I want to say I saw it on. I want to say it was either on Twitter or on ESPN. It was the Green Bay spread was the most bet on game in all of week one. Like,
hell yeah.
Betting Green Bay to cover was the most bet on game. Like
with 3.5, it should have been.
And it didn't. And it's just, not only did they get hit, they got embarrassed. And this time it feels a bit different because there is no next year. I feel like for this team, so you may see a different scenario play out. Not as like bad as week one, and they should definitely beat Detroit on Monday night next week, but it's definitely a bit gross.
Indeed it is. All right, as for this episode, though, we're going to run through, and situations being situational, we're going to check in on some situations, be it injury or how week one played out or otherwise. We're going to check in on some rookies. We're going to drop in on some standout performers, some guys, that maybe weren't such a surefire thing. We're going to look at how they did, and then we're going to give a rundown of week two. Take a look, see if there's anything that stands out for fantasy. Look at some of the early over-under point totals, see if there's anything surprising to us, and break that down a little bit. And then, again, we'll have a much more in-depth preview on Sunday. Well, not much more in-depth. It's more like you'll get the other half on Sunday.
And if you like the bet, I highly recommend you want to, whatever site you use, you want to go and check what the early week spreads are. You can get some really good advantages on these early week spreads. Mm-hmm. It'll kind of helps, set you up, for the week, because these lines are never finalized, obviously, until we get close to kickoff. So definitely, whatever site you use for betting, go and check to see what the early open lines are, and see if you can get yourself maybe a point or half a point in your favor that may help, tip the scales.
Indeed. All right. Well, before we dive into it,
what's fueling Beerfield?
Dan, you look like you got something dark.
I am drinking. This is, I believe, from last year. This is a Triptychs. Can't see in the dark here. 52HZ. This is their Imperial Stout with roasted pistachios and Papua New Guinea vanilla beans. I got this. I was for sure still working for Benny's, so I know I got this. It's been probably about a year since this came out. It was sitting in my fridge because obviously being not prepared, totally forgetting about we were doing a show. I didn't have a beer prepared and really wasn't trying to drink some more bourbon, so I went with something dark. We're getting to that time of year, so
we are. And I drank a lot of dark things yesterday. But speaking of getting to that time of year, I'm going the other route. We're saying bye to summer. at least, with a Snowball Juice Hazy Juicy IPA. It's from Urban South out of New Orleans, Louisiana. Strawberry Shortcake is the version of this. It is a series of beers. It is a strawberry graham cracker crust and a touch of velvety sweetness float through this milkshake IPA. No word on hops or anything that's used in it, but more on that later. All right. First things first, we got to go ahead and touch on some injuries because there were a handful of them.
Yes, there was.
Plus a sell window that's opening up as it does every year. All right, we'll start Jerry Jeudy. He's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks with the high ankle sprain. He came out looking like he was going to turn around the bad season from last year, and now, potentially right around half of his season's gone. KJ Hamler is already been announced that he will step into slot duties, which is primarily where Jeudy was working. Noah Fant led that team in targets, but you would expect Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick also to kind of help split up some of that target volume Jeudy was getting. And again, that's not insignificant.
Yeah, so Sutton had the unlikely matchup. He had to deal with James Bradbury, which is one of the best shadow cover corners in the NFL.
Yes, it is.
So if you look at his stat line, obviously 3 targets, 1 catch, 14 yards is definitely not sexy. He is the new alpha. He's going to, he's not new alpha. He's been the alpha, but I believe will be the one that gets leaned on a bit more. I am probably skipping the KJ Hamler hype.
I am too.
I would much rather get on Tim Patrick.
Because Tim Patrick's done it every year when they've had an injury at wide receiver. The last 3 years, or 2 years, when somebody's gotten hurt, Tim Patrick has been the guy that has stepped up and given you fantasy-relevant weeks.
Yeah, I just don't – Teddy's game isn't pushing vertical. KJ Hamler isn't a renounced and refined route runner who's going to step in that slot. So you can have a big player too, potentially. If he's operating out of the slot, he's going to have advantages. He's going to have linebackers and safeties on him. He's going to be able to utilize his speed and never get doubled. So there's going to be a game or two that's going to be good in his future. But I expect more production on Tim Patrick. I expect upwards production on a Cortland Sutton. And if Noah Fant's not going to do it, which he's shown that he can, you have Albert O.
Who also got involved a little bit. But I think Noah Fant saw the target volume that if you drafted Noah Fant, you're hoping for. He gave you a solid enough tight end line.
He basically gave you what you want from your, from a tight end that you took
late
in the late rounds. 8 targets, 6 for 62.
Yeah.
All he's missing, he gets that touchdown. He's top 3 to 5 every week.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? Plenty of guys aren't going to get that touchdown, so you're still rolling with the tight end one. Other note on Denver, they've got Jacksonville this week, so it's a much easier matchup. I would definitely go back to Cortland Sutton this week. Even if you're put off a little bit, go back to Cortland Sutton this week because there's going to be volume for him, and he's not going to have James Bradbury type of matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be in a lot better situation, and the running backs should definitely be also both very viable flex options.
Yep. But KJ Hamler is the one on waivers, although some other waiver pickups I would rather go for coming off week one.
He's on the lower end. He still should be roster, but he's not someone that I'm actively trying to get.
Speaking of people I'm not actively trying to get, Josh Gordon has been recommended for his yearly reinstatement after completing an NFL monitor treatment program. He is a free agent. He is now 30 years old because I feel like we've been doing this for a decade with him.
It is like Groundhog's Day.
It is.
Right on cue. Good for him for taking on a 18th chance that he'll probably fuck up.
Well, and he did realize it when he relapsed and immediately sought out help for it. So, that at least shows a bit of accountability there on his part from a human standpoint. But,
yeah,
man, you better be ready because, look, the NFL might keep giving you second chances, but you're past 30 now. Teams ain't going to be as willing.
No, you'll be, we'll see. We'll see what happens with him.
Yep. Raheem Mostert is going to undergo season-ending knee surgery. So, look, talk of Twitter right now is Elijah Mitchell. And the other talk of Twitter is Trey Sermon, and this has impacts on both of them.
And Jermichael Hasty.
Yeah, Andrew Michael Hasty, who somehow was lost in the shuffle of Trey Sermon was a healthy scratch, and Elijah Mitchell had a monster game. So,
yep.
They also signed Kerryon Johnson.
To the practice squad.
The practice squad. So, first off, if somebody does cut bait with Trey Sermon, go pick him up.
Yep.
Second off, Elijah Mitchell had a good game in a soft matchup. And we have seen before where rookie running backs or off previously not used running backs, I don't think he's a rookie.
Mitchell? Yeah.
Is he a rookie?
Yep, he was undrafted.
23-year-old. No, he wasn't undrafted. 6'10".
Oh, was he 6'10"? Okay,
Yeah.
I thought he went undrafted.
2021, 6'10", out of Louisiana Lafayette. Actually, hyper athletic and did have some productivity. So, he's certainly a guy that could do it. He's got the athleticism for it. He's got the size for it. He is older, which is why he was down on a lot of people's draft radars. Was relatively productive in college. So, I mean, look, is a possibility, but we know with San Francisco, too, they will roll multiple backs. And that is good news for Trey Sermon to where you're going to hold him another week or two, given the injury.
At least the best thing to find out and wait for is when they announce who's the starter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the odds-on favorite's going to be Elijah Mitchell just based on how the usage was and what the snaps were. I mean, Elijah saw 64% of the snaps compared to 28% for JaMychal Hasty. We just know how this offense runs. Shanahan will use it back until he's proven that he can't get it done. Then he'll switch to the next one.
And let's be honest, waivers are not deep enough to where you have to drop or make a move on Trey Sermon right now.
No, there's no need to be, swift about it. So just, wait until we know who's the starter this week, and then let's see how week 2 plays out. Sermon's going to be one of those players where they're a little bit too late on the cut, or you held on long enough for him to see his value.
For sure. Which, like I said, I think the right area on Sermon is probably 2 to 3 weeks from now. You don't want to cut bait too early. You don't want to hold on too long. I think 2 to 3 weeks from now, if you don't have signs of life, that's when you do it.
Yeah, like you want to still have it, and like we know multiple backs are always successful. There's no need to be like, if you have the spot to hold them, just keep holding until you need to drop a player. Or if you have that shallow of a bench, hopefully you have deep enough bench spots where you can kind of hold on to a couple stash players. And that's where you're going to keep Sermon until you need a player or until he breaks out.
Yep. And that being said, Elijah Mitchell is one of 3 backs right now that are on waivers that you do put a claim in on. It's him, Tyson Williams, and Nate Jones. So
there's some other ones. There's some other smaller ones for the deep release. Gainwell, given his usage and just the chances that he saw in that Philly game. And then we're going to take it back to 2017, the backup to Derrick Henry in Tennessee, Jeremy McNichols.
Jeremy McNichols was starting to come on as a waiver pickup at the end of last year.
Yeah, this is a whole new look Tennessee offense. We saw exactly the terror of owning a non-pass catching running back in a bad defense versus elite offense. So if anything were to happen to Henry, we know that McNichols has the size to do it, and we know that he's going to be in on those 2-minute drills and those for sure passing downs. So he's an add and stash if you have the spots to do it, and he's definitely someone you want to throw on your watch list just to see how everything turns out.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with a hip injury, so Taylor Heineke will take over there. I don't really have a lot else to say with that.
I actually took him in my Scott Fishbowl, and I end up dropping him because I wanted to pick up Sammy Watkins because I needed to add more receivers to my lack of receiver depth. I knew it was going to happen at some point. I didn't think it'd be after week 1. So at least I have Mac Jones. I'm a little salty that I didn't hold on to Heineke for one more week.
I am also glad that I have Mac Jones. More on him in a minute. Michael Gallup on IR. He's going to miss a minimum of 3 games. We talked about this a little bit on Sunday. Cedric Wilson is the guy that should step in there. But Dalton Schultz saw I want to say 7 targets out of that game. So, those may be your largest beneficiaries other than CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup getting targeted in the teens. So,
Yeah, it's going to be a nice matchup, too, to get the Chargers.
Yeah.
Expect the same thing that we saw this past week against.
Very similar.
Well, I'm trying to go to the snap counts here. Cedric Wilson, 40% of the snaps.
Yeah, because he came in as
Yeah.
he was running as the 4 anyway, and then when Gallup got hurt, he just immediately supplanted it and came in. So
exactly. So,
yeah,
definite must add.
Absolutely. All right, want to check in on a couple rookies here, just to kind of get some opinions on their performances. Trevor Lawrence, 28 of 51, 332, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. Pretty pedestrian start for Lawrence. It's a throwaway. He's a rookie. There's not a lot you need to lean into that other than this is kind of why no matter how good the rookie is, you're iffy on taking him in QB1 leagues.
This is also a good note as to be careful when betting on these rookie quarterbacks.
Yep.
In these situations, you and I both recognize that it looks enticing to take the team against Houston on the road, but this is also now we get to see just how bad Jacksonville looks.
And Houston played relatively well, and Urban Meyer loses one NFL game and might be on his way to USC. So there's that too.
Yeah, Jacksonville's in for a
rough
fucking year. Rough year.
Mac Jones, very good debut for him. 29 to 39, 281, 1 touchdown. They were in contention to win it. He kind of managed the game the way he needed to. Damian Harris fumble put that out of reach, but solid debut for Mac Jones. About exactly what you want to see out of him early on. And if you see similar performances to this all year, you're perfectly okay with it. This is what I think Mac Jones is right now.
Yeah, he's not someone you need to worry about in single QB leagues. There's no volume upside and passing. There's obviously no rushing upside, but this is the perfect QB3 in Superflex and 2 QB leagues. He, as you just said, he did exactly what we expected, and he was overall the best rookie in week 1. Both
it was
strugglings for both Lawrence and Wilson. They both were able to kind of right the ship as the game started to get a little bit, I won't say out of hand, but obviously the game script shifted for both the teams they played against.
Wilson started out super slow and then kind of righted the ship a bit as it went on.
Yeah, it looked bad.
He overall ended up with the better stat line. He recovered pretty nicely after a very slow start. I think he started like 5 of 14 or 5 of 17 or something.
He was like
terrible.
1 for 7 and a pick. Like it was about as bad as it started as you could hope for, but you got to see the growth within the game, which is encouraging.
Yep, ended 20 at 37, 258, 2-1. Again, very solid start for Zach Wilson to his career. Not as clean as what Mac Jones was, but still, like you said, Dan, adjusted in the middle of the game. He was under more pressure than any other quarterback. They lost Becton, and he adjusted to it.
Yeah. Also, something you got to keep in mind: this offensive line looked worse than expected, and took a huge hit. Wilson took 6 sacks.
Yeah.
Might be. We're gonna see a lot. We're gonna see what he's made of in terms of can he hold on to these hits, but he might be in for a rough season. But it's encouragement, far more encouraging than what we saw out of Darnold throughout his time there. And that's not really a true shot at Darnold, but that's just
right. And
this shows a little more excitement if you're Jets fans.
Yeah, we'll get to some of that here in a minute with Darnold and some of those other guys that new faces, new places. Trey Lance, Justin Fields, they both were used very similarly. They were used in a Taysom Hill type role.
It was super annoying.
It was very annoying. So not a whole lot to say there other than
not yet.
Stay tuned on
not their
those.
time yet. Yep.
Looking at running backs, Najee Harris looked about kind of like I expected him to look behind the Steelers O-line. 16 attempts, 2.8 yards per rush, 3 targets, 1 catch, 49 total scrimmage yards, no touchdowns. Tough defensive matchup. Not a great start for him, but that's the inefficiency that I think we very, very much expected running behind that Steelers O-line right now.
Here is the most encouraging thing. He saw 100% of the snaps. 100%.
All of them.
And now that's all of them. If we're looking at what 100%
For,
means, that means
for
everything.
those keeping track at home, 100% of snaps means all of the snaps.
All of the snaps, literally every single one. And then they get the Raiders this upcoming week. It's going to be a lot better of a matchup for them.
Yeah,
so.
a lot easier. Should be a little bit more efficient. So Najee Harris, just stay on that train.
Yep.
Javonte Williams, he led the team in rush attempts and touches, but Melvin Gordon had the big run. This is a hot hand team right now.
And this is what we expect, easily what we expect throughout the first half of the season. And if both running backs continue to look, decent, it's going to be a timeshare.
Or pedestrian. I mean,
or pedestrian.
If they look the same.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Gordon was able to break off the line run when the defense was worn down. We've heard the same old tropes.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's kind of what Gordon has done throughout his career, right? The defense gets worn down from a ground and pound attack, and somebody's going to break one. It was Melvin Gordon this week. He did have a target advantage as well, 3-1. Did Gordon. So,
for those counted at home, they each saw 33 snaps.
Yeah. So, it is
50%.
It is even as even gets.
It's
for
literally
those two.
even.
If you put those two together, you get Najee Harris's snap share
Right.
from a percentage standpoint. Because 50 plus 50 is 100.
I love math.
Welcome to Beerfield Math.
Simplicity.
We like to break it down here.
That's right.
Rookie wide receivers, a lot of encouraging things here from a lot of guys.
Unless you're Kadarius Toney.
Unless you're Kadarius Toney.
8% of the snaps he ran. He had 2 touches for -2 yards.
I mean,
he lost points for you.
So did Elijah Moore.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. That was also rough.
But we'll start with Jamar Chase. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Led his team in targets. T. Higgins did leave that game, especially towards the end when they're passing a bunch and in overtime with dehydration. So, but Higgins and Chase were clearly running as 1A, 1B.
Yeah, this is they fooled us all. I mean,
they did.
People that were on the Bengals offense were kind of coming off, just going to, fuck with Mixon, Boyd, and Higgins. Burrow comes out, I think, has one of the better games of his career, only 27 attempts, so we get to see what Cincinnati looks like when they have a lead. He did take 5 sacks, so that offensive line is clearly going to be a problem for him.
Still.
But like you said, Chase led the team in targets. And he got to burn Breeland on what looked to be broken coverage, but either way, Chase showed why he was highly touted coming out.
I feel like burning Breeland's just kind of a rite of passage. Some weeks,
right. It as a lot of Vikings beat writers put it, it really showed just how important it is to maybe give some of your starters, especially defensive starters, when you've changed a lot of them over, some snaps in preseason. Because my God, that defense looked pretty pedestrian. I mean, they got 5 sacked, which is encouraging. The offense looked, the play calling looked even worse.
Yeah, and by the way, revenge game for Andy Dalton this week. But the Bengals have the Bears, who have a completely just dog shit secondary outside Eddie Jackson. So, expect T. Higgins and Jamar Chase to have solid games again.
You're gonna fire up your Bengals. More confidence, especially Mixon. Hey, remember when Mixon wasn't supposed to be an RB1?
He had a great week.
33 touches, led week 1 in carries.
100 plus rush yards, right?
127 rushing yards, 23 receiving on 4 catches.
Hell yeah! So
great week for him.
Yep. You're going to fire up your Bengals this week, but Jamar Chase, solid week. Devonta Smith for the Eagles, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown. He led the team.
He was also fuck you to everybody that claimed that Jalen Hurts can't throw a football, and it was terrible.
Yep, we're going to get to that in a minute because we both got a victory lap that a little bit.
Devonta Smith, that throw from Hurts to him, that was fucking beautiful. One of the best throws of the week. Shouts out to them. I want to say Smith was he was like 95% of the snaps or some 87% easily led all receivers in snap share.
Yeah. He will.
Very encouraging.
He will have a tougher test this week against San Francisco, as will Hurts and the entire Eagles offense.
I mean,
just
will he? The Lions put up 30-some points on.
Well, they did, but the Lions also went. I don't wonder if San Francisco took their foot off the gas a little bit because they were up by quite a bit.
I mean, you're right. Detroit's offensive line is significantly better than Philly's.
Yes.
As both of the running backs in Detroit, were very much viable. I mean, they were RB2 and RB6, I think.
Yeah, they were both really good. So
they're both RB1s this week. So
it's something to. I mean, look,
you're right.
They're going to miss Jason Verrett, so they are a little banged up in the secondary. But it is going to be a tougher matchup. So just beware of that. You're going to start him.
You're
still,
absolutely right.
But it's tougher.
You're absolutely
matchup.
right. Yeah, it may not be the shootout. We'll see how this pass rush can handle an actual defense because whatever Atlanta put out there on Sunday was high school level.
It was.
That was rough.
Jalen Waddle tied for the team lead in target share. 6 targets, 4 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown for Miami.
We'll see if he did enough. Will Fuller is back off of his 1-game suspension.
Yep.
I fully expect him to be at least starting over one of Waddle or Parker. But very encouraging to see Waddle, have, the game that he had. It was another great debut for.
Yeah, and they'll all be out there in 3 wide receiver sets. They do have the Bills, so it's another tough defensive matchup this week. But it was solid floor, or solid just performance for Jalen Waddle. So again, encouraging, kind of like Devonta Smith. It is another tough matchup. You do have Will Fuller coming back. You may take your foot off the gas on that one just a little bit through week 2, but again, encouraging. Anthony,
I gotta ask. I do gotta ask about not a rookie, but Myles Gaskin, Malcolm Brown doing Malcolm Brown things. Gaskin only out there for 54% of the snaps. Obviously, he got some of the targets, so I'm not saying he's not playable, but is there any concern?
No, I mean, Gaskin was always, to me, going to kind of be in that flex sort of range, RB2, RB3. I think there's concerns if you drafted him that high. I loved Myles Gaskin as a value. Part of the reason I don't have a lot of Myles Gaskin in redraft this year is that, kind of not a value. But still had 70-plus all-purpose yards.
5 targets.
Yeah. 5 targets.
And a neutral game script throughout the entire game.
5 targets, just 9 attempts. So, look, it's kind of what it's going to be, right? He's going to be an RB2, RB3, but he's usable, which is why you have him on your roster.
Yep.
I didn't think he'd come in and just dominate the usage, especially after they said he's not going to do that.
It's also New England, too. So it
was also New England, right? So I think this week, like I said,
they got Buffalo.
They got Buffalo, so it's another tough matchup. But he'll be involved about the same, and then we'll go from there.
Yep.
Anthony Schwartz, he saw 5 targets, which was also tied for the team lead. There were 3 Browns that had 5 targets. 3 receptions, 69 yards, 1 rush for 17 yards. So solid utilization for Schwartz. He looked really good for a rookie that came out pretty unheralded. But you got to pay attention to what they're going to do with Odell Beckham and then how Schwartz mixes in with Peoples-Jones after Beckham comes back.
The Browns had the perfect game script for what they want to do for 3.5 quarters. If it wasn't for a complete ding-dong move from the punter to Baker, getting hit on his throwaway that led to a turnover. Nick Chubb fumbled. A very costly fumble. This is a very good Browns team that just got bitten at the wrong time, and they showed out well. When Odell comes back, that just makes the offense that much more explosive. And when you can add Anthony Schwartz, who can give you another deep threat because he's very fast.
Yeah.
It just adds to the element. Baker, outside, I know people are going to look at the pick and say he threw a pick. He had a hell of a game.
He did have a hell of a game.
He played over 10 yards per attempt. and it's very encouraging against the best team, or I guess one of the best teams in football.
Yep, he just look good doing it too. The Browns will end up against the Texans, which, look, they
Nick
played
Chubb game. That's a
well,
Nick Chubb
but
and
it's
Kareem
going to
Hunt
be a
game.
Nick Chubb game, Kareem Hunt game. But if Beckham doesn't play, we saw that the Texans offense can click a little bit, so it may end up being more neutral than we think.
Swartz, I Browns are a little bit better than Jacksonville, and the Browns are home 12.5-point favorites. That line has jumped up incredibly.
Yeah.
They opened up at 11.5. That's already a full point from what they open at. That's insane. So good on the. I mean, it's what the spread tells us. At least opening spread tells us it should be.
It should
Nick
be.
Chubb, heavy run game. Swartz, I think, is a fine target, but we'll get on that in DFS on Sunday.
Yeah, Schwartz is a guy for DFS, or if you're looking for a dart throw or something along those lines. Rondale Moore in Arizona, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 68 yards. He was tied for third in targets on the team, though, and that's really what you were concerned with, is where does he fall in that pecking order? He was tied for third with Christian Kirk. So
what really tells me is that they need to stop fucking around with AJ Green.
Green had
80% of the snaps, and he's not the same player.
had 6 targets, 2 receptions. Hopkins is obviously going to be your
he's
top getter
he's
there.
a clear on one, but there's so much more what this offense can offer when you put out Kurt and Moore along with Hopkins, and you can just stop fucking around with AJ Green. Like, he doesn't offer you pretty much anything.
It's got to take some time. I don't think
I know.
it's something they're going to do next week. They do go up against the Vikings, though, who, we saw what their defense is. So
that should be another fun potential shootout.
Yeah, it's another one where, I think I'm probably okay running Kirk or Moore out, both.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of there'll be some Cardinal stacks in my DFS lineups. I will definitely say that.
Yep. Elijah Moore, not kind of the other side of it. Not a great game for him.
It's just Corey Davis on. As for receiver wise, it was we got to see Wilson start to lean on
Corey Davis,
his number one receiver,
which is good for Corey Davis.
Registered a catch, yeah, right. Mims didn't register a catch until the fourth quarter.
Your other concern with Elijah Moore is that Jamison Crowder should be back.
It should. I think it's just. I think the most encouraging thing that's going to have to happen is it's Wilson puts together for a full game. Wilson having a good second half is definitely encouraging. The running back situation is a complete mess. Against why we told you to avoid drafting Michael Carter at his ADP. The offensive line struggling is not going to be the biggest help. Moore will hopefully run a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, and we'll see if that team can get more gel together next week.
Yeah, Jets do have the Patriots this week too, so
not a good match.
Not a good matchup.
maybe week 3.
It probably is just going to be Corey Davis and nobody else this week.
That's probably going to be the call most weeks until we see an improvement.
Yeah,
Corey Davis and Corey Davis only.
Yep. You could maybe get away with Jamison Crowder since,
I wouldn't even go. I mean, we don't even know if Wilson can support two.
It's not that. It's that Jamison Crowder might be the one he's supporting given the outside coverage that New England runs out there.
And we'll also see what the snaps and everything looks like after next week when they're both when he's back and maybe Keelan Cole's back too. So
it's just looking at like J.C. Jackson and the other Patriots cornerback whose name for whatever reason is slipping my mind.
Gilmore.
Yep, Stephon Gilmore.
It may be you're not playing Davis next week. He'll likely get Gilmore.
Kind of why I'm like, well, if Crowder goes, he might be the guy because he'll run strictly out of the slot. Davis is going to have his work cut out for him against those two.
Yeah, it's going to be. At least Elijah Moore did run 86% of the snaps. So again, we'll see. I don't know if it's gonna go flat out from Moore running with the ones the entire game to he's now on the bench. And maybe we see more slide out to that outside role, and Crowder just operates out of the slot like he normally does.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yep.
Even if, then, I still don't love it this week.
No, God, no. You're not playing any Jets next week. We'll just say that.
Yeah, I'll
this
probably.
week.
Well,
I'm not. I'm there. Like we can play. Like Crowder can have a nice game. I have zero confidence in this.
I'll make the play for Crowder under certain situations, right? And it's just, it's because I think he's going to be the guy that gets the target volume given the outside coverage on Corey Davis. And I love Corey Davis, but call it when you call it, right?
We know how rookie quarterbacks have fared against Belichick defenses throughout the history of that. So I may just punt that.
And it will be rookie versus rookie. So
it will.
Kyle Pitts, 8 targets, 4 receptions, 31 yards, tied for the team. Tied Calvin Ridley for the team lead there. As a lot of people were expecting, but horribly inefficient for both Falcons pass catchers.
I mean Philly is not supposed to have a good defense, and this is even more concerning. I mean, they get Tampa Bay, who's got a far better defense, far better pass
Tampa
rush.
Bay's got a really banged up secondary, but the pass rush is going to be.
It may not even matter if Matt Ryan can't get the ball out in time because he's constantly on the floor.
Pressure,
so,
right?
Yeah, so this may be. You're going to still roll out Pitts. I mean, 8 targets. The guy is the number 2 there.
Yep. No, 8 targets for a tight end is what you want. You just need the results to come along a bit, and it might be another rough one. But for 8 targets, you're rolling them out. Same thing with Ridley, right? Rough game, but
exactly.
8 targets, you're still going to roll them out.
Well, yeah, like there's no way just the amount of capital spent to get Ridley.
Right.
Better days are ahead. So
right. All right. I want to look at a couple of situations being situational things. Tampa Bay, I don't think we need to hammer this too hard. We know what the target volume was. Mike Evans was third in target volume there, I think, or was he 4th?
He was 3rd. I think he was 4th behind Gronk.
I think he was behind Gronk. Yeah, that's.
It's going to fluctuate from week to week.
It will. Brown and Godwin were well ahead of him.
I mean, we knew from last year when Brown joined the team. A couple of weeks in, we kind of had an idea of what this was going to look like.
Godwin was well ahead of both of them.
Yeah,
Brown had 7 and was hyper efficient. So
yeah, it's going to. Mike Evans was below Leonard Fournette, who had 7 targets himself.
Yeah,
it's going to be the same. Like it's going to fluctuate from week to week. We know that Evans is going to eventually have his blow up game, but he was one of the easiest fades in redraft for receiver. Even Godwin to an extent was. So
yep. And they do have it, and like we just talked about, they have Atlanta. So you want to get right game. That's a game where you're starting your Bucks.
Yeah.
Ronald Fournette. Sure. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, not well documented. Don't need to talk about it much. Lackluster game for both of them.
Jones got announced. Jones was announced the starter.
Yeah, he will be the starter. Fournette will mix in. Expect more split until somebody runs away with this.
Jones said he just. The coaching staff basically pointed out saying that Jones just wasn't right mentally after that fumble. It wasn't. He was in a doghouse. He's just. That fumble, I guess, took a lot out of him.
I guess so.
So we'll see.
All right, looking at Pittsburgh target share. Juju 8, Deontay 10, Chase Claypool 5. So, more of the same from last year, right? Claypool is
much better matchup against Oakland this upcoming week. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be the same.
It's a lot of the same. You get a lot of short range volume going to Juju, a lot of short range volume going to Johnson, and Claypool not necessarily getting the volume. He's going to rely on efficiency. So,
that was what it was last year. It was they're going to manufacture touches for him just because he's so big and fast. You have to try to get him the ball. But Deontay, there's no one's going to be shocked when Deontay leads his team in targets. It's no one. He got banged up. He's able to come back in.
It's efficiency. It's the same thing with Deontay as it is for Juju. It's just efficiency with your targets. He's getting all of the volume in the world.
I'll be looking. I'll be interested to look once Player Profiler puts up their percentages for for a week one to see what the slot percentages looks like for both
Yeah.
Deontay and Juju.
Deontay's getting all the volume in the world. They're just not doing a lot with that volume.
It's also Big Ben, who just is like,
not
for
himself.
fuck's sake, just put him behind the shed and just.
And if it's not
just let him
good
go.
in Oakland, if you see more of the same against the Raiders, Vegas, if you see more of the same against the Raiders, then you've got to chalk that up to just buckle in. That's what you're going to
And
get
that pass rush looked very good last night. I mean, Baltimore's offensive line is also banged up. They lost some key pieces in the offseason, and they put Lamar Jackson under duress. Imagine against a worse offensive line and the exact opposite of mobility from a quarterback in Big Ben. It could be ugly next week in terms of pressure if that Raiders D line has figured out their pass rush.
Yeah, it very well could be. Jets running backs still looking for a hot hand here. Tevin Coleman was the lead guy, just barely out touching Ty Johnson. Michael Carter clearly third, but they all were similar. It was 9 to 7 to 6. So
it's just funny because Johnson out snapped Coleman
by a lot,
35 to 17.
Right.
So Johnson's the clear guy that they go to, but it may not matter, and it definitely won't matter this week.
No, definitely won't matter this week. Don't expect anything to get better there. Indianapolis did a little bit of spreading the ball out. A lot of people were watching Indy to see how that wide receiver work was gonna land, and at the end of the day, the top target getter was Nyheim Hines. So.
I think both it was him and Taylor, right?
Hines had 8, Taylor 7. Pascal was your leading target getter at wide receiver. So
he's
if you were on
leading receiver,
Pittman or Paris Campbell, keep waiting on that one.
So at the end of the day, it was Pascal. It wasn't even Pittman or Campbell.
It wasn't Pittman or Campbell. It was Pascal, and it was all ugly. So
15 targets went to running backs on 38 attempts for Wentz
against Seattle. Well, he was not known for their secondary. So
again, yeah, it's the answer just may be the running backs. It's just maybe. I mean, the fact that Jonathan Taylor got 7 targets and Nyheim Hines still at 8. It's great for Taylor. I mean, all he just needs is touchdowns, and we can't predict those. So. I mean, the guy had 116 all-purpose yards.
Yep.
Taylor is a clear RB1 probably every week if that touchdown falls his way.
Yeah, so there's a lot made of Ayuk versus Deebo Samuel, and the answer is loud and clear.
The answer is
it's Deebo.
I mean, I know it's Deebo.
9 of 12 for 189 and 1.
Kyle Shanahan came out, said that Ayuk battle with a hamstring injury. That's why Trent Sherfield was out-snapped him significantly. Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand why you even play Ayuk.
Don't ignore the other quotes, too, that Ayuk's still learning how to be a pro. That was what was thrown out there as well. And you know who else they said shit like that about? Fucking Dante Pettis.
Yeah.
So
I'll take the I'm not saying the run out Ayuk by any means, but at least he was a far more productive rookie and significantly more capital to him.
More capital, I'll give you. Was he that much more productive?
I mean, he had over 800 yards, I think, as a receiver last year. I mean, he hit all the key. I want to say he hit all the key. Fuck, where is he? So he didn't do anything, so he's not going to show up on anything.
700
snaps.
He had 748 yards and 96 targets his rookie year.
That's extremely good for a rookie receiver.
Yeah, Dante Pettis was at 467. Only played 12 games. So
yeah. What we do know is we know that once the top, if one of the top 3 guys is banged up or hurt, we'll see those targets condense more. And as long as Ayuk is banged up,
even if he's not,
or he's in the doghouse,
Deebo. There's no reason to hate. I know you're not hating on Deebo, but just throwing it out there. There is no reason to hate on Deebo because all Deebo has done when he's healthy is produce. You've got to believe
Just
in
got to
it
stay
at
healthy.
this point.
Oh yeah,
He's,
he just has to stay healthy.
if he's
And he was
healthy,
always
you
the better
start
value.
him. Yeah,
he was always
the better value. He's a stud of a wide receiver. If he's healthy, you start him, you play him. There's not positive things coming out about Ayuk. You ride Debo as long as you can ride Debo. And we did him dirty by calling that into question, given what he's done when he's been healthy. So, I think I owe Debo Samuel a personal apology. We already talked San Francisco's running backs. I'm going to skip that. Detroit's targets was ugly. There was no clear...
Yeah, when the tight ends and running backs clearly outproduce your receivers, it's
ugly.
It's ugly. It's no receivers. Hawkinson, again, I would take him over Kittle. I've been saying it all off season.
And he had a better game.
It's going to be proven that way. They have a good offensive line in Detroit that's only going to get better once Decker comes back off IR. Hopefully right after week 3.
Yep.
And we know where all the targets go to. It's the 2 running backs right now. This makes Jamal Williams.
He has flex value.
Flexible.
DeAndre Swift was huge.
Even when Swift's 100%. I mean, people freaked out and benched Swift because they were going to play Jamal Williams over him to start the game. Like,
why?
You don't come off Swift. You know that the target volume is going to go to like 3 people. And now this includes Jamal Williams.
Yep.
If you came off with Swift, you fucking deserve the L that you got for benching him.
Yep.
Just saying.
You did. He had a great game. Jamal Williams had a great game. TJ Hawkinson, 10 targets. Easily led. If you're looking for a wide receiver, it was Trinity Benson that led the wide receivers in targets. He had 19 yards.
Actually, it was Quintez Cephas at 7.
Oh, Quintez Cephas had 7 and a tutter. But only 12 yards. So
this took shootouts. And everything else.
The top yardage wide receiver was Amon-Ra St. Brown at 23. Again, this is against San Francisco. We'll see how they do against easier competition, but not a great start for Detroit. Still stay away from the wide receivers. If you believed in one of them, you got like another week before you drop them if you don't drop them this week. We're starting to... I feel like what we saw this week is going to be the way that Detroit goes a lot. It's going to run through the backs and TJ Hawk.
Number 1 receiver in snaps was Khalif Raymond, who played 75% of the snaps. Amon-Ra was second at 64. Saw 9 special teams, which again speaks to the importance of playing special teams as a rookie where you're not a day 1 or high day 2 pick. His time could be coming, but we know as of right now until we get more information as the weeks goes on.
And he's a rookie.
Hawkinson, Swift.
Dan Arnold's going to be an earn it type person. So, Houston's backfield.
I don't want to talk about Houston's backfield.
We got to talk about Houston's
The fact
backfield.
that Mark Ingram's
26 attempts, 85 yards and a touchdown. Mark Ingram's back, baby.
I don't think that's going to hold up at all against any other teams. It's not Jacksonville. They get Cleveland next week. There's no fucking week. There's no way Mark Ingram is going to be game scripted to see 20 target or
26 touches.
20 touches. No way.
Far and away ahead of the other 2 backs, but Phillip Lindsay and David Johnson also put in touchdowns.
I want to see how the routes run come out. David Johnson did have 4 targets, so Lindsay's 1. Mark Ingram had 1 as well.
Johnson's was a receiving touchdown. So the way that this laid out is this. Mark Ingram was the lead back. David Johnson got the receiving work. Phillip Lindsay was the change of pace guy.
Yeah. It's going to be
we'll have to see if that holds.
If you want any Houston running back, I'm taking the guy that's going to see work on pass catching downs and hurry up offense because Houston's not going to get Jacksonville every week.
So you're going David Johnson. I'm going Mark Ingram because of the sheer lead and touches right now. They're all on rosters somewhere. I mean, that's...
I don't know. I don't think Mark Ingram's got to be out there, and you're going to see people drop Phillip Lindsay and David Johnson because of what Mark Ingram did. The only reason I don't want Ingram is because I just don't see how this game script works in his favor.
And that's the other thing
weeks.
after waivers run tomorrow, by the way. Go look at who people dropped and pick some people up because there's going to be some guys that you were believed in, that you were maybe sniped on, that you believed in, that get cut early. So jump all over them.
Exactly. It's
when you can pick them up for free. Or no, they'll still go through waivers, but still.
yeah. It's maybe we'll get a clear idea. Maybe more running backs will get banged up, and we'll see one of these three guys get moved down from.
Yeah.
I mean, Houston's. I will say this about Houston's offense: it's better than expected. I will give them that. And if they get favorable matchups, I think Mark Ingram definitely has value if he's still the lead back then. But we know next week isn't a favorable matchup for them. So,
yep.
I think he is.
It is a
rockable. I will
Tyrod
agree with
Taylor
you.
revenge game, though.
It is. I think half the league is a revenge game for the Ty
Tyrod.
God himself.
Well, that could be for Ty
Him
God.
and Fitzpatrick, the Ty Gods himself, are after games are revenge games. I feel like.
All right, looking at New Orleans, we'll get.
Oh my God.
We'll get to Jameis in a second. Who took some great advice from his trainer.
I think Jameis is every bit of us.
I love Jameis Winston so much. I really do.
And there's a podcast.
Everybody
for
made
a-
a big deal about him stealing crab legs. It's like, man, you look at what half the rest of the NFL has done. You eat your crab legs, buddy.
You know what I'm excited about Winston? Not his passing numbers, because that's insane efficiency. He ran the ball 6 times.
Yeah, 6 for
That's
37.
exciting. For
But-
me, that's what I'm excited about.
And he was the most efficient passer in the league. 5 touchdowns on just 20 attempts. That is an
That's Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson levels.
25% TD rate is not sustainable, guys. Just in case you're curious.
And I mean, 20 attempts and only 148 yards is not the most desirable thing, but there's no one there. He's got Marcus Callaway, got Jair Alexander. We know that's. We can't be
it's
shocked about that.
7-ish yards an attempt with no receivers. I'm okay with it.
I mean, you got Troutman, you got Kamara, who is easily going to be the most sought. He's going to be the most looked at running back or most looked at player on this team when you're playing the Saints. So his efficiency kind of not being great isn't shocking at all.
I took a flyer on Jawan Johnson, the modern day Joe Foria.
Juwan Johnson. I mean, the snaps are. He's the easiest. Don't buy into his 2 touchdowns as Troutman significantly outsnapped him.
It was in best ball where I had
that's
3
even
tight
better.
ends put up 0. So
Yeah, Juwan Johnson, known as he's a wide receiver in some leagues and a tight end in others.
it's because he converted.
He converted. So Troutman, 51 snaps.
The
to
next
Juwan
Darren
Johnson's
Waller.
12. He could be. There's a lot of those guys out
There's
there.
a lot of next Darren Wallers. No, you're not going for anything in the Saints receiving game, though. Right now,
I'll take my chances on Troutman.
unless
A tight end landscape is a bit ugly. Unless Troutman.
Troutman,
At 6
sure, but from a wide receiver standpoint,
no.
nope.
A better days ahead for Callaway. He's not going to get shadow corners. Who do they play next week? Maybe it's better.
I haven't looked.
Saints are playing the Panthers. So
That's bad.
so-
They'll get Bradbury though.
no, not Bradbury. He's the Giants. He'll get. Who was the other top corner? It wasn't Surtain. Surtain went to Denver. It was the other one.
Oh,
I think it was TCU. Oh no, not TCU. It was South Carolina. guy.
JC Horn.
Yeah, J.C. Horn. He'll get the rookie.
Yeah.
He'll get the rookie on him. So
Well, and Corey Davis had a good game, but still,
true. Very
Marquez
true.
Callaway is not Corey Davis, so.
No, but Callaway will have probably better days.
And we also saw it should be Carolina, like we talked about with the Jets, should be very, very neutral for a lot of teams. They're an average defense with capability of playing slightly above average, but they're not locked down by any means. They should be pretty neutral. Saints are going to try to do exactly what they did here. They're going to try to run through Jones and Kamara and pass when they need to and see how efficient they can make Jameis Winston. And you know what? It worked last week. So Tony Jones, Alvin Kamara, they're the 2 you're starting. Jameis Winston next week, if you need to run it, if you need a quarterback too, look, probably not going to repeat those efficiency numbers, but if that's how they're going to run it, you could do worse. So
yeah, you're gonna sit there and hope that. I mean, we expect Carolina's offense to be a little more functional than what Green Bay was, but we know that New Orleans defense is good. Even with a banged up Lattimore, he completely shut down Adams.
yeah.
It's encouraging for
All right.
sure.
We already talked Miami's running backs. I want to look at the Patriots targets because there was a lot of, who's going to get them, basically.
I
Nelson
thought it
Aguilar,
was
Jacoby
it's
Myers.
still gonna be I think it's still Jacoby.
Jacoby had 9. Aguilar had 7. Aguilar was more efficient with his targets. That just is what it is. It's going to be those two, but they're going to eat into each other's work. They're both going to be Hunter Renfrow level most weeks, and they're in that wide receiver 3 type discussion with some upside matchups.
My favorite, James White in neutral game script, saw 7 targets still.
7 targets. They're back. I mean, the Patriots and how they're going to run this thing are back. 23 carries for Damian Harris, just 3 targets. Most targets went to James White. You got your Deion Lewis and your James White here.
And for those wondering how the receiving pecking order in terms of snaps look, Jacoby Myers missed 1 snap.
That's like 99%.
That's like 99%. Nelson Aguilar, 85%, 10 less, but clear number 2. Number 3, Kendrick Bourne, only 33%, or only 33 of the snaps, 44%. This is clearly Myers and Aguilar and 12 personnel, which you expect them to run when you have both Jonnu Smith
and Hunter
Henry. When they both saw 72+% of their snaps.
Yep.
We know what this offense is, combined with James White. Damon Harris, if he didn't have to fumble, we wouldn't hear the bullshit that we're hearing now. Did a good game. Not great, but good. Touchdowns coming his way.
Against a good defense. So
exactly. There was some... I saw some reports that Damon Harris may see less work because of his late time fumble. I'm sorry, but Ramondre Stevenson fumbled on his first carry.
Right, exactly. Who are you going to give carries to?
Like, you're not going to give him all to James White. That's not his role. So Harris
is
maybe
fine.
He plays 2 or less snaps. He's going to be completely fine. We know what his role is. He even saw 3 targets himself.
Yeah, he's fine. Johnny Smith, by the way, love the tight ends and targets, like you said, both him and Henry on the field. Henry probably blocking a little more. So,
yep, he is the better of the two.
He is the better of the two at that. Denver running backs, you already talked about it. They had a pretty even split. Arizona's target share, we already talked about that a little bit. We need to look at the Arizona running backs.
It should just always like you. All right, yeah, we'll look at it.
No, we're gonna look at it.
Let's look at
16 and 16. They had even touches.
Even touches?
Yeah, look at snap count for me. But
I gotcha.
Even touches. James Conner had 16 carries for 53 yards. Chase Edmonds had 12 carries and 4 receptions for over 100 scrimmage yards. So Chase Edmonds was the better of the two.
Chase had 6 more snaps, and the fact that he was far better out. I mean, Conner, to me, this was a far more. It was a far better game script for back like Conner.
And
this just to me tells me Chase Edmonds he's an RB2 plus.
He's a lead back. It might be 60-40 split, but Chase Edmonds is a lead back and he's RB2 plus, and that's where you drafted him with confidence. So
he even got 4 targets in a game that was always out of hand. This is Chase Edmonds is no worse than an RB2 at this point. And if he gets into the end zone, again, he's your new Austin Eckler right now.
Yeah. I'm going to punt on the Rams situation. Sonny Michel didn't really know the playbook. Darrell Henderson
There's
had
so
a good
many
game
victory
in garbage
laps
time.
so many victory laps on Darrell Henderson. And we keep saying, guys, Michel joined this team like 2 weeks ago. Let him learn the playbook. He has a role. You don't trade 2 draft picks a week before cuts if there isn't an idea that you want for that back that you traded for.
Right.
Michel
it's not like
will have a role.
Henderson got fed. He had 1 target and 16 rushes in a game where the Rams are comfortably ahead.
He played. He had no less than 60% of the snaps before this game, and we said it all along. Darrell Henderson will likely have career highs in snaps and touches in the first few weeks while we wait for Sony Michel to get up to speed in this offense. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. They're not going to trot out there a guy that's not prepared yet. This is one of the most difficult divisions in football. When all 4 teams are playoff viable, they're not going to just trot out a guy that they just traded for. He'll have his time, and you'll see where the benefit comes from. You'll see what the snaps really look like in a few weeks.
Yes, you will. All right. Let's see. Baltimore's running back. Same thing, although a little bit more Latavius Murray than I was expecting to see for him just signing.
So Tyson Williams, this is his first game he's ever played.
Yep.
He looked a little lost second half when the game was a little bit more like
Close.
when that 14-0 lead is gone. Oakland is competing. Vegas is driving, competing. Tyson was a key reason to Lamar's second fumble. Completely just whiffed on his block. That's what Latavius Murray saw a lot more of the snaps in the run in the second half. And he looked terrible.
He was inefficient, but, I mean, look, just like we said, Sonny Michel couldn't really know a lot of the playbook.
Yeah, that's true.
Latavius Murray could not have been prepared to step in there signing 2 days beforehand.
Yeah, it should have been like this is a product of the game flipping on Baltimore, and this is a significant issue that you're going to see
Tyson
throughout the
Williams.
year. It's the running game is nowhere near what they want it to be, and the offensive line is a massive concern.
But what you will see is you're going to see more Latavius Murray plus another veteran back once either Devonta Freeman or Lev Bell's up to speed.
I mean, Tyson Williams was great in the first half.
I'm not saying it, and I'm not saying it because of his rushing ability, but if he's going to struggle in pass pro, then they're not going to have him on the field for that. So
no, and you're absolutely right. But
it's going to hurt his receiving upside a little bit if he's going to be
just like with Murray.
chips.
He could also improve. He may have been throughout training camp and preseason with this team, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
He was running with the threes at that point.
Right. So I mean, this is going to be a developing situation. The thing with Latavius Murray getting the snaps he did when Williams struggled, they clearly brought him in with a purpose. So
Yep.
you stash and keep an eye on that. With Tyson Williams, you need to see him get better. He looked good early on. Stats are there. If he's on waivers, absolutely go grab him. But this is a situation to monitor.
And trade him in Dynasty. Like, this Baltimore team makes nearly every running back look viable. And this is going to be, I think this is going to be a fluid situation.
Yep.
I'm not saying that Devonta Freeman and Le'Veon Bell are going to threaten much of anything, but no one on this team has
no one's locked in yet.
No one. Everyone has a short leash. And once Freeman and Bell are more up to speed with what the Ravens want them to do, you'll see them also get mixed in, and we may have a more clear idea second half of the season, but this is going to be Baltimore's in a rough way. We'll just say that.
They are.
They're in a rough way.
Last situational check-in is Oakland's wide receivers. A lot of people watching Brian Edwards, Hunter Renfrow. No respect on his name. Hunter Renfrow, 9 targets, 70 receiving yards. He's just all reliable. He's the type of wide receiver I love, and I talk about it a lot on this show. Just
third and Renfrow, and
it's
what
just
he is.
Floor for him. But Brian Edwards showed some flash. So
it was a travesty that Brian Edwards didn't get his first target until the end of the fourth quarter.
Yep,
it's fucking bullshit.
And then took off. So hopefully they game plan a little bit better for that one. But both guys should be on rosters at this point.
Josh Jacobs, if you got him, trade him. I don't like the situation for him. He got gifted 2 touchdowns in the red zone, and Kenyon Drake looked better, at least as a receiver.
As a receiver, yeah, 5 for 59. As a runner, nobody looked good. Again, we'll see how that situation evolves. You can say if you got him, trade him. I think you're going to have a better opportunity to.
He had 2 touchdowns this game. I mean,
yeah, but he wasn't efficient. So unless you got some dumbass,
I don't know if
Warner, thinks touchdowns are a lot. I
think more or less owners are going to look at fantasy point score than efficient. Like most common owners, people like us who look deeper will know. But people will see Josh Jacobs.
Touchdowns are a fluky stat and look.
And to us, yes, they definitely are. But to your common fantasy player,
if anything, I'm looking at the schedule. Josh Jacobs is probably a better. He's maybe a better buy low candidate around their bye week than he is a sell high. Listen to this. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Miami, the Chargers, the Bears, the Broncos, the Eagles to start. Good run defenses.
He may be dropped
Yeah. And then coming out of the bye week, New York, the Giants.
Okay.
Good week. Kansas City. We'll see. Cincinnati. Dallas. Football team. Kansas City again. Cleveland.
I don't know how much better it's going to get.
Denver again. Indy.
Yeah.
Los Angeles. It's really those first 3 to 4 weeks coming out of the bye. And then...
I think at that point his value is going to be.
Yeah, and we'll know about these run defenses. That is a rough schedule, though.
This may be, I take the gift of 2 touchdowns and see if you can find that joker in your league. I'm like, he's going to get his volume as he gets healthier because he's not healthy. He was still battling, being sick over the weekend.
How did they get such a hard schedule other than the fact that they play?
Improvements to the that division got better defensively.
Yeah.
And
that is a hard schedule for the Raiders.
They just drew a tough divisional and conference opponents this year.
Yeah.
Rough.
All right, couple stand-up performances I want to talk about real quick. Jalen Hurts. You said it earlier. Fuck you to the people that said that he couldn't throw. Jalen Hurts, we've talked about it on this show a lot. We started from fuck Jalen Hurts to, man, he made adjustments to he's going to be really good. The kid has done nothing throughout college and now in the NFL but make adjustments and improve. And make adjustments and improve on his game weaknesses. He had a great game. He put passing with the rushing. That is the upside. That is the reason that Dan and I, a little bit more you than me, but I was never off on Hurts either, were on Jalen Hurts a ton this offseason, is because we knew that type of passing performance and that ability to throw the football was in there. Yes, it's against Atlanta, so you can't fully victory lap it, but,
I'm full on victory lapping
that's
this shit.
The
full on.
That is the first step is, can you do it against a good team? And he looked great. Can you do it against a bad defense? And he looked great against a bad defense. He looked like everything that we knew that he could be as a passer. 3 touchdowns, hyper efficient, 126 rating, added another 62 yards on the ground. That's MVP level right there.
There's not very many running backs that are going to get, not running backs, quarterbacks that are going to see the rushing volume that Hurts will see each and every week. What makes him a top 5 upside quarterback, it's not his passing numbers, it's his rushing numbers. When those touchdowns start to come on the ground, combined with him already being an above average passer, maybe not to the levels of Wilson just yet, maybe not on Kyler's level, but not that far off. And he's already better. He's been better than Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
And to do it with weapons that are young and explosive, it's. I've been on Hurst's train. I've been aggressive on Hurst's train because we saw what makes a top 5 quarterback in fantasy.
And Jalen Hurts. And
Jalen Hurts.
Here's the thing. The schedule's good. He's got the 49ers this week. That'll be a little bit of a test. So interested to see how that goes. But then he gets Dallas, Kansas City, Carolina, Tampa Bay. So a couple rough matchups in there. Then Raiders, Lions, Chargers, Denver, Saints. More good matchups than bad for Jalen Hurts throughout the majority of the fantasy football season. So
and it may not even matter because we know that rushing upside is he may
the floor is going to be there regardless. Yep.
Yeah, he may look bad from a passing efficiency standpoint. Through some of these games, it may not come as easy as it did against the Falcons. The rushing is always going to propel him. Let's say he gets 10 rushes, 80 yards, and a touchdown. That's an RB2 week as a quarterback, and he's going to have good. Average at worst passing numbers every week, and all you need is maybe a 1 or 2 passing touchdowns, which you can get in this offense. Hurts is going to be a top 5 quarterback moving forward, and you should be ecstatic that you got him in the 9th, 10th, and 11th round.
Yep. One more player I want to talk about as far as having a good week, then we'll hit a beer review and get into week 2. Dave Montgomery, guy a lot of people slept on, went down in the same area as DeAndre Swift, Miles Sanders, A lot of people down on Dave Montgomery. Picked up right where he left off last year against what should be a good Rams run defense. 108 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I am
Easily the best player on the field for the Bears.
I will owe him an apology. I mean, he has improved. And that's all you can say is that we knew that the struggles were there in his rookie season. We knew the struggles were there in the first half of last year. And we knew that just because he had easy matchups to end the year doesn't mean that he can't improve as a player. He comes out this year and he looks more decisive.
He's breaking tackles. He shows what you saw in college.
He looks more explosive, which in turn is because he's more decisive. He's not trying to get cute. He's not trying to be the next Le'Veon Bell in terms of trying to outuse his vision. He's more comfortable, and we see running backs do this where he's easy to shit on, and they can prove us wrong. And he's done that. And it's only going to get better for him once Dalton's off the field and you get Justin Fields, who should open up the running game even more, just given his ability as a rusher.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better for Montgomery once Dalton's gone. Only going to get better, in my opinion.
And they have Cincinnati this week, which is another great matchup.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's hit a beer review, and then let's go look at some of these early matchups.
Beer review.
Dan?
14.8%. So again, for those at home wondering, I am drinking Triptych's 52HC. This is an Imperial Stout with roasted pistachios and a Papua New Guinea's vanilla beans. As I said, this is 14.8%. The pistachios are going to give off a very rich, sweet, added on to what's already going to be a heavily decadent Imperial Stout. The vanilla beans, it's going to continue to add on top of that. It's just very rich, very sweet. If you like styles like this, you'll likely enjoy beers like this. Especially this one. And that's as much I can really say for it. It's as advertised. It's better than the first time I had it, from what I remember.
All right, sorry, I just got a text that said, "How the hell did I pick up Elijah Mitchell off waivers in my league?" So another thing to keep in mind here, folks. There's at least one of those every year at the running back position. It was James Robinson last year. It was Phillip Lindsay the year before. It happens. Just a late round rookie that nobody is on at all is totally under the radar, and then they end up getting opportunity and they take off. So, it's a thing.
Yep.
Anyway, I had Snowball Juice, Hazy Juicy IPA, Strawberry Shortcake. Very, very good. Strawberry on this one's subtle. I think that the fact that it is an IPA, the bitterness and some of the hop flavor really balances out without taking the forefront. The hops are definitely an afterthought in this, but it really helps balance out some of the sweetness that's there. Graham cracker, don't get a lot of that. Definitely more strawberries and vanilla. But because it's balanced out by that hop flavor, it's overall a pleasantly drinking beer that doesn't hit you overly sweet. And it goes down nice. I think that it's very well done for a fruited IPA. So
Sounds tasty.
It is very tasty. Very much a fan. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into some of these matchups this week. I'll pull up FanDuel here in just a second. Well, I was trying to do that earlier, and then I got distracted by Elijah Mitchell questions. So, let me get logged in here. One of the annoying things about FanDuel is it logs me out every
Yeah, I got it up too.
5 minutes.
I just don't say logged in. Not have to worry about it.
All right, Giants and the football team. They're the Thursday night game, 40.5 over under. Football team is favored by 3 in this one. I think that's probably a no-brainer, even with Taylor Heineke. Giants are a dumpster fire.
You're going to probably see more of the running game.
For
So
fantasy,
we're
it's
good.
Gibson, McLaurin, Barkley. Your studs and nobody else.
Oh, my Sterling Shepard, just from what we saw from him this past week.
Yeah, I forgot to check in
watched it.
on Giants target share.
I mean, it's going to be. It was basically both Shepard and Galladay saw 85+% of the snaps. I think Shepard was also a 99% of snaps on there. Target wise, you got 9 for Shepard, 7 for Slayton, 6 for Galladay. Snaps wise,
Shepard's ugly.
I mean, your number 1 and 2 receivers on 12 personnel plus is going to be Shepard and Galladay, 95 and 85% snaps respectively. Slayton, 70%, and those are going to likely be on your third receiver. So if Washington gets up early, you may see a little more of that tempo offense. Washington isn't a going to up tempo run it down, especially with Heineke now taking over. This should be more of your traditional Gibson. Giants do have an okay front 7, but you're going to get, Gibson should be the main guy. You should see more of an uptick as they'll be playing probably with the lead more often than not. And Logan Thomas, who got the rush on Heineke in the end zone.
Logan Thomas. Well,
and obviously McLaurin had one of the sickest catches I've ever seen. Like, I think the catch looks cool. I think when you understand of just what McLaurin actually did to catch that football, it was fucking incredible. Like, if you haven't seen that catch from him off that sideline where he had to what felt like contort his body to just even level to the field, it still turned his head back because it was an underthrown back shoulder. It was just incredible. Pulling up prop bets here.
No, I wasn't even hoping.
Not much has been put out.
I was even hoping that any of those would be put out because I'm trying to burn through this. I feel like props we'll address more on Sunday.
Yeah, this is Thursday night. We're not going to be back for Thursday, so
that's true.
You're going to see a little bit more tomorrow. You'll see some of the early lines come out. Gets an over/under for rushing yards is 69.
That's fair.
Which is all right. Receiving again, you're gonna high 60 or almost low 70s for McLaurin, right at 50 for Thomas. So it's going to be. I wouldn't mind taking the Shepard over on receiving yards at 56.5. We're not going to see much right now, though. It's just not. They're not going to release a lot of these until either day of or until the day before. That's pretty much what we got, at least for FanDuel. You might see some sites will release theirs earlier. FanDuel tends to be the day before or Sunday games by Friday, when there's a lot more information for them to play off of, as practice is over for most teams by then.
All right. Steelers, Raiders. Raiders are 5.5-point dogs here on the road. So here's the question I ask myself. The Raiders just beat the Ravens. Are the Steelers better than the Ravens? And I think no.
Defensively, yes. And Derek Carr looked
dog shit.
Pretty bad first half. He didn't really get it going to the fourth quarter. I think people will look at this game this game looked like shit until the fourth quarter. Now is when the team started to play with a little more urgency. Baltimore just could never take advantage of the gifts that the Raiders gave them, and vice versa. Pittsburgh is significantly better from a defensive standpoint than what Baltimore showed last night. And I mean, they beat Buffalo, by this same spread.
Sure.
Who has a far significant better offense. Maybe the Raiders try to keep it within a single score,
I think the Raiders could cover 5.5. I don't think they're going to win, but I think that they could cover.
Yeah, I just
I'm staying away.
Yeah.
Staying away from Jacobs, Drake in the passing game. Najee Harris should have a much better game. We already talked about the Steelers receivers a little bit, so
Yeah, you're probably playing all three of them anyways.
yep. Bears Bengals. Bears are favored by 3 at home, but it is plus 100 odds. So basically, this is a wash. Bengals plus 128 on the line. If I'm betting it, I'm taking the Bengals line.
This is respect given to Cincinnati coming off of their
Yeah.
home win against Minnesota. Like the Bears, yes, did not look good against the Rams, but this is a little more respect to the.
It's an Andy Dalton
Bengals
revenge
team.
game. I mean, basically here, this is another one of those chalk. There's nothing too cute about this because the Bengals receivers are who they are, right? So
Yeah,
you're gonna run
I'm
them out.
thinking-
You're gonna run out. I mean, it's Robinson, Montgomery, Mixon, your Bengals, Burrow's a fine stream.
I'm taking the Bengals to win this game, and this is the start of the
I do too.
start Justin Fields. If maybe we'll get that. You know, they wanted to play Dalton against the Rams, not put a lot of pressure on Fields. Maybe we'll get the late weeks announcement that Fields is starting.
Yeah. All right. Cleveland 48.5 over under
12 and a
12.5
half.
point spread.
12.5.
I'm not taking the spread. I would probably stay away from unless you're throwing
As-
Cleveland
as
in a
my
money
grandpa
line
says,
parlay.
As my grandpa says, you stay away from double-digit point spreads in the
You
NFL.
You do.
It's not easy to get that.
Especially since Houston's offense overperformed. I mean, you got to see if there's anything there. If we're just calling that it was against Jacksonville, Cleveland's not going to lose this game. This is look. Brandon Cooks had an amazing game. You're starting Brandon Cooks. If you want to run out Ingram or David Johnson, given their utilization and how they were utilized, I think you can make an argument for it, especially Mark Ingram. Just I wouldn't expect it to be as pretty as it was last week. Cleveland, keep an eye on Odell when you're looking at like a Schwartz or Beckham.
Yeah, I only want to play one Houston cat, and that's going to be Cooks. If I can get an idea of who the pass catching back is there, I think they'll have flex value to them. I think Cleveland covers. I'm just not going to bet it.
No, I wouldn't either.
I don't like betting that, and I think this game goes under. I think Cleveland will hit the point totals they're supposed to hit, and the massive difference in defense Houston is playing, plus they're not at home. I think I wouldn't be shocked if Houston's held scoreless and touchdown, or at the very least touchdownless. It's like I'll take Cooks because he should get the volume as a good flex play, just based off of game script that could yield him catching some garbage time plays. But I think Cleveland under is a good call. I mean, I think just taking the under. It's a good early week call.
Rams Colts. Rams are favored by 4 here. I like that Rams spread at 4 points. They
look good.
They are in
very
Indy,
good.
but they looked really, really good. And Indy just lost to Philly, so they've still got some things to figure out.
Seattle. They lost to Seattle.
Lost to Seattle. Sorry. Still things to figure out.
I'll get the over in this too.
Yeah, 47.5. I will go over. Again, want to see a little bit more out of Indy's offense, but what we saw from David Montgomery, I don't expect Jonathan Taylor to have a problem here.
And we know he's going to get the pass catching work when
He's going to get some.
the Rams go up 2 touchdowns.
Naeem Hines will definitely get pass catching work here as well. He's a good flex
Yeah.
start. Steering away from Colts wide receivers till we know more of what they got. Rams are pretty chalked. It's another game where you can start Darrell Henderson. We'll keep an eye and keep you updated on snap shares and if Sony is getting a little bit more usage as things move forward.
I would expect to see him on the field
A little
more. If he's not, then I'll be a little concerned because he barely got any work Sunday night. But I expect I expect to see a little bit more Sony Michel this game.
Yep. Bills Dolphins. Bills are 3.5 point favorites over the Dolphins. 47.5 is the over under on this. two teams that should be well matched up. I think the Bills do pull this one out. As far as the Dolphins go, I kind of want to stay away from the wide receivers here as well. We don't know how Will Fuller's going to mix in, what that effect's going to be to Jalen Waddle. Mike Gesicki did absolutely nothing last week. We already talked about Myles Gaskin.
No catches.
Yeah. We already talked about Myles Gaskin as a flex play. For the Bills, it's Diggs, Allen.
And I guess Singletary, if he's going to see majority of the snaps and the pass catching work. Look, I actually like Miami at 3.5. I think Miami's better than expected, and we got to see a little bit of the efficiency regression from Josh Allen. Buffalo is still a good team.
Pittsburgh's a good defense too,
and still a good quarterback. And Miami's defense is also good.
Yeah, they're not. I don't think they're Pittsburgh good though.
I don't. I think
I think it's just a little bit of a drop off. They're not bad.
Yeah. Oh no,
it's just a bit of a drop off.
I agree, but I'll take the home team in the 3.5 points. I will not be shocked if whoever wins this game is by a field goal.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's going to be 3 or less points, and I'll take the 3.5 for Miami, and maybe even flirt with. I'll maybe even tease Miami and get 9.5. You want to play teases, but Miami money line isn't even that bad at plus 158.
No, it's
I
not.
think they have a legitimate chance to win this game, and to really show people that they are that they're winning against New England. It's not a fluke.
Yeah, I don't see Buffalo, one, dropping back-to-back games, and two,
but it's not against bad opponents.
It's
right?
not against bad opponents,
and that's not
it's
saying
just,
that Buffalo is a bad team. They like Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh's
defensively
a great defense.
Yeah, and that was even then that was a bit shocking. Like that's a special teams
right
touchdown away from maybe being different from Buffalo having and commanding that lead and be able to run out as the leading team there. But I'm not writing off Miami in this game. I think plus 3.5 is a good spread for them.
Yeah, I'm not writing them off. I just don't think
I
it's going to go that way. I think that Buffalo's going to pull that one out.
Patriots, Jets. Patriots are favored by 5.5 here. The rookie quarterback versus rookie quarterback. You mentioned the rookie quarterback struggles against New England. For the Jets, I think that the one person I might want to start is, what we saw at Corey Davis. Tough cornerback matchups this week. It's Jamison Crowder running out of the slot. Other than that, I want to stay away from most things on the Jets. And 5.5 with two rookie quarterbacks. I mean, New England probably does it though.
I like the under.
I do like the under.
I'm avoiding our Jets. Like if Crowder has a nice game, that's great. I'm not ready to write him in as a target getter. And this and maybe nobody. It may be him. I'm not saying that he can't. I think he has very well in that range of outcomes to be a heavy target guy. I'm not betting on any Jets players this week. And for New England, it's going to be Damian Harris, James White, if you don't have a strong RB2 or flex play.
Yeah, and then Jacoby Myers.
I mean, maybe Nelson Aguilar, but I trust that Myers is the more of the go-to receiver. This is just a game that's not going to yield a lot of points.
No.
So it's hard to want to flex players from this game. That's all.
No, I'm with you on that. 49ers, Eagles, 3.5 points to the Niners in this one. Look, this is going to be a little bit tougher of a test for Jalen Hurts than last week was. It'll be interesting to see how he does. That being said, you're not falling off of Jalen Hurts. Tougher test for Devonta Smith. There could be some better options in some of these higher over-under matchups, higher point total matchups that we're going to get to that also performed last week. So keep that in mind. For the 49ers, look, you roll with what worked last week, and that was Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel. So, and at 3.5 points, I do like the Niners spread here.
Yeah, I'd say watch to see who the Niners say is the starting running back. I think that'll play. They'll at least give us an idea of how the early touches look like. The over-under, I think, is a bit aggressive at 15.5. I think Vegas is telling us that San Francisco's defense might not be as good.
It may be like Tampa's is right now, where they're banged up in the secondary, and it's mostly going to be pass
Yeah.
rush.
Hurts, don't expect the efficiency potentially to be there. I think rushing upside could be higher given the better pass rush that the Niners have. You may see Hurts take off a little bit more. Hurts, Sanders, Goddard, and I'll still play Devonta Smith with some confidence to it. 8 targets in his debut as a receiver. You
8
just hope he
targets is
gets
what
that
you want to
tutty.
see. I think the results
Yeah.
might be a little bit more tempered this week, and that's fine. But with what
That's
Vegas
fine,
is telling us, it's an upper tier wide receiver 2-3 play.
Yep, I agree.
Saints Panthers. Saints are favored by 3.5 in this one, and what should be neutral game script. Over under is 44.5. Look,
It'll be close. That's a lot of points for a game that should be back and forth throughout with not the best offenses in football.
nope, not going to be the best offenses in football. You will see New Orleans try to do what they did last week, basically, which is death by running, basically.
And Saints defensively, you may see this is a good
yeah.
test for the Darnold truthers out there because the Saints could put a lot of pressure on him.
They just made Aaron Rodgers look silly. Lattimore is going to end up with
Yeah.
DJ Moore.
I may
So,
I may now lean to the under. I mean
Yeah.
the over is better odds. I think Vegas expects this game.
This is kind
I
of
wouldn't
a
be yeah.
fade Carolina outside of CMC game.
Yeah, it's gonna be CMC. You're probably gonna still run out DJ Moore, maybe. Robbie Anderson. You're not playing Terrence Marshall. You're not playing the tight ends. It might. You're right. It might just be a CMC and a. If you have maybe better options other than Moore,
Yeah.
you're probably still rolling out Moore right now, though.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing as Devonta Smith, right?
Yeah.
Moore had 14 targets, so
A little more
it's a
significant
volume play.
capital.
Yeah,
A little bit more significant,
More significant capital,
spent
too.
on Moore, though, so it might be a little harder to
a couple rounds more. Yeah, see what
to
I did
sit
there.
more. Ba-dum-tsh.
Broncos Jaguars. Broncos favored by 6 in this one. We already talked about both Broncos backs. It's a great week to play them. They should be up on Jacksonville, and it should be a running type scenario. Both guys are going to be flex plays with upside for Gordon.
That's a backfield we didn't talk about is Jacksonville and the split that we saw there.
We did not talk about Jacksonville's backfield.
And that
you're
one,
right.
I think both talked about because Urban Meyer, for as long as he's the coach there, his infatuation with Carlos Hyde is going to annoy the fuck
out of
out of
everybody.
James Robinson. I mean, Carlos Hyde out-touched him and out-carried him. I mean, Robinson had 4 more targets and 1 more catch. And it looks like they were about even when it came to scrimmage yards. Snap-wise, though, it's 64% for Robinson and 34% for Hyde. Hyde, as we said, he's a nuisance. And I think Robinson right now is a low in RB2 flex play. Depending on when you drafted Robinson's capital, may be a little hard to bench him. Because if you started the draft late August when Etienne was hurt, you probably spent the 4th or 5th round pick on Robinson. But it's not pretty. And I think you can't expect RB1.
Given that it was
boost from
split and what the production was, and the fact that Saquon Barkley, yes, coming off of a knee injury, averaged 2.6 per carry, I don't want to touch Jacksonville's backs this week against Denver.
If you want to bench Robinson, I'm all for it.
I want to bench.
I agree with you.
I want to bench them both.
But I
because,
think what's encouraging is at least Robinson's going to be the pass catcher there. So
and that's how that
volume
game
might be better.
And that's how
in
that
his
game
favor.
script's going to go. Is that if you have to start one, it's going to be Robinson because of the target volume. But if you can avoid it, avoid it.
Just don't fuck with Carlos Hyde. Like just don't just for the love of God, don't hurt yourself with that. You're gonna pick him up and you're going to be pained by him every week. Robinson has got flex value because of potential game script going in the direction of pass catching role for him.
Yep. And look, target
That's it.
and look, target volume, because how this game script should go. DJ Chark led the team in targets. Marvin Jones and
He was number
Visky.
2 in air yards.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Well, yeah, 3 for 12, 86, and
Well,
a tutter.
sure.
But
You're right,
he was
but-
getting deep targets, though.
I mean, the matchup's not great, but we got to expect Lawrence to get better
They're going to have to throw.
each and every week. And
I mean, that's
they're gonna have
exactly
to
where I
throw
was
in both
going.
games.
That's
Yeah.
where I was going with it, is that if you YOLO'd Visca or started Chark, do it again, because they're going to have to throw. And the other thing with this, too, is that, I'm not sure who's drawing top coverage, but Darby's hurt, so, Surtan's in, but he's a rookie. So, and he got burned. So you got to be wary of that, too, to where they're a little banged up in the secondary. Was if you're staying away from the running backs, I'm okay with with starting DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault this week.
We're going to probably be playing more Jacksonville players than we want to admit.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence threw the ball 51 times against Houston. Well, Denver's going to slow the pace down. It don't take much to get this Jacksonville team throwing. You get them down a couple. You go up 10 points. It's like boom. They're abandoning their run game, and they're saying, Lawrence, please save us.
Yep. And then we already talked about Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant. They figure to get the lion's share probably of the target work for what's there for Denver. I would not get cute with Tim Patrick this week or KJ Hamler, because how this game script should go. From the Denver receiving perspective, I just want Sutton and Fant.
I like both. I think both Denver backs are flex value this week.
Both Denver backs are good this week, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're both good for flex plays.
Yep.
Well, one of them, if not both of them, are scoring a touchdown.
Indeed. Minnesota, Arizona. Arizona's favored by 3.5 here.
That's wow. At home too.
Yeah.
That's a I take the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I would alt spread that to like 5.5.
Yep. And over under's 51. So this is a game where you're starting them, right? We already talked about starting Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore.
If they have a fantasy pulse, you play him.
Wide receiver 2, 3. Yep. Just Jefferson, Thielen, Cook, Edmonds, even James Conner. There's a fantasy pulse here. You play them, because what we saw with the Bengals is that the Vikings might have put some pieces in on that defense. It's going to take them a little bit to mesh. So
yeah, that overhaul and that chemistry, I underestimated. I will admit, I underestimated the importance of defensive chemistry, and the fact that barely any of these starters on defense played in the preseason. You're seeing the struggles early, and the Cardinals coming off of their extremely high performance against Tennessee. Minnesota's defense may not be that far off what Tennessee was in week 1.
yeah.
It's better, especially from a pass rush standpoint, but it's not significantly better, especially in that secondary.
Yep. Over under is 51 in this one, by the way. I like the over.
Over, and this is one of the hot games to target in your DFS decks.
Yep. Falcons, Buccaneers, over under on this one's 51.5. Bucks are favored by 11.5. I don't like double-digit spreads. I could see that happening with how bad Atlanta looked.
I like the under. I don't know if the Falcons are going to score enough points to push this game over. They didn't do it against Philly.
I don't either.
Oh, that's tough.
Tampa Bay is really beat up in the secondary, but you still got to stop the pass rush. So
I may actually get cute and alt spread this for Tampa to 13.5. I may get cute and go for a double-digit touchdown win.
You know what else I didn't talk about at all was Atlanta's backfield or lack thereof.
Mike Davis commanded the snaps. Cordell Patterson was the best efficient running back.
Yeah, but only 7 carries. So don't love
Mike
that.
Davis is still the the guy for now, but that's something to watch out for. This is a game you want to see. I mean, Patterson's been a running back for 3 seasons now. But Atlanta's fucking
This is a game where I don't want to run out a running back anyway. We saw Zeke against this defense, and you're not.
You're absolutely
You're
right.
not putting a running back out.
You're
in
gonna
this
bench
one.
Mike Davis if you absolutely if somebody else. There's got to be somebody better. Hopefully you have somebody better.
If you're the Falcons, you're running 12 personnel too here a lot and keeping Hayden Hurst in. And Pitts and Ridley are the only two guys I want to run out there. That's just because of target volume.
You hope that Atlanta can adjust a little bit. Let maybe you're gonna see probably more shallow targets than you probably won't see the deep targets. You may see Pitts and Ridley run a little more intermediate to shallow routes, try to offset the pass rush that the Bucks have.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as far as the Bucks go, it's exactly what you'd think. Look, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. It's ugly coming off of last week. It's a good matchup.
Yeah, they're both flex-worthy plays.
They're both flex-worthy plays. It's like Denver is. They're both flex-worthy plays until they're not. And this is one where it's a good matchup for both of them.
Don't be shocked if the Bucks get up huge. This could easily turn into Bucks just lean on whatever running back's better for this game. Jones is getting the start for whatever that's worth. But don't be surprised the Bucks get up by a couple scores first half if they just lean into the running game. That's why I like the under in this game. I don't know if Atlanta has enough points to be scored.
Indeed. Cowboys Chargers, this is the highest over under of the week at 55.5, or tied for highest at 55.5.
Yeah. That's nuts.
First things first, Mike Williams is a name we didn't talk about. He saw just one less target than
12 targets.
Keenan Allen. 12 targets, 8 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown. If this is going to hit 55.5, you're playing Mike Williams.
I love Mike Williams. And the fact that he's gone from just a deep threat, big-bodied, 50-50 ball receiver to double-digit targets that has an expanded role.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a late breakout. I think people should not be shocked by that. He is the next Devonta Parker. The offense, they're healthy, they're elite. Dallas's defense is garbage, and I think the Chargers are going to have their way at points, but we know Dallas is elite with their playmakers.
Yep, start your Chargers. This is another one we talked about a little bit with Zeke, where you need to kind of fade expectations a little bit with the Chargers pass rush being what it is. We saw that the Cowboys had to keep him in the block. They did activate Zach Martin, which should help Zeke out a little bit.
Yep. That's huge.
That is huge.
One of the best guards in football.
Yeah, so don't underestimate that, because that's where Zeke was blocking, was the interior line. He was not blocking outside. He was stepping up and helping out the interior offensive line. So having Martin back is going to help that out. They are without Lyle Collins, but I'd expect them to use a tight end to chip there a little more. Cedric Wilson, if this is going to hit 55.5, that's a game, another name that you need to know from a Cowboys perspective. Also, you could look at a Schultz or Jarwin stream from a tight end perspective, given where this is pointed.
I lean Schultz as the target getter amongst him and Jarwin. I think Jarwin will be the guy that stays in and block a little bit more. I agree with you with Cedric Wilson. If this game is hitting the over or getting anywhere near the Vegas total line, Cedric Wilson, you're looking at, even a guy, I hate to say it, Larry Roundtree, too. Like,
he was this year's Joshua Kelly to start.
Yeah, he's on the field. Eckler may never be at quite 100%. Hamstring injuries are a bitch to deal with when you're constantly trying to play through them. Again, but this is a game where you start in every fantasy relevant player with a pulse. So,
yeah. Titans Seahawks. Seahawks favored by 5.5 in this one. Tennessee's defense is hot garbage. This is a start everyone type of game, I think.
Little easier of a defensive matchup for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Seattle doesn't have quite the pass rush as
Arizona,
as the Cardinals do. So,
well, Taylor Lewan got lit up. So,
and then he publicly
took
apologized
accountability for it,
which is, I guess, is a good step forward. But you got to see more. This is where the concerns came for Derrick Henry, where can Tennessee keep the games close enough to maximize Henry's upside, or is the Titans going to show us that they can actually get Henry involved in the passing game? And we
Well,
saw that they really didn't.
we're going to see how they do it against and what the efficiency numbers look like against a good offense with a bad defense.
So it's going to be game total 53.5. I like this over hitting a little bit more than the Dallas and Chargers game,
I
but
do too, especially with A.J. Brown, Julio Jones on the outside. Look, question for them, we said it all the time with Julio going to Tennessee, is that is bad for his volume.
he
And
got called out too by I think he got called out by Mike Variable too.
did he?
Yeah, for something that he did in that game.
It's bad for his volume. Neither him or A.J. Brown was hyper efficient. They're going to have to get that right. I do think this is a get right game for Tennessee, though. I'd go right back to, your three studs there, plus Tannehill. As far as Seattle goes, chalk. Rashad Penny's hurt again. So Chris
Sad.
Carson all day. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett with a huge game. Don't
Just
need
keep firing him up. No, it's like the Chiefs. We know where the fantasy relevant players are at.
Speaking of Chiefs, this one's also 55.5. Baltimore and KC. KC with a history of shutting down Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, they've games have been kind of closer. Last year was easily not. I am concerned with Baltimore, that O-line. Jackson, we saw glimpses of hope in that first half, and then we got to see what will likely be the outcome when Baltimore has to play from behind as Jackson plays a little more hero ball.
Yep, and that's what they're going to have to do against Kansas City, and it doesn't bode well. Your top target getter was Sammy Watkins there. He's going to have some flex value as a wide receiver.
Revenge game.
Wide receiver 3 value. It is a revenge game. So
He's a guy I would like in DFS stacks as well. I think that he, like Mike Williams, has a good chance to have a big game, although on a lot lower volume for Sammy Watkins. So
I would much rather lean towards Marquise Brown. He plays significantly better, in my opinion, last night. I watched the entire game, but
yeah,
Brown and Jackson has that chemistry. The Chiefs are going to easily push that tempo if they get up early. Chiefs have generally been a slow starting team, though. And by slow, I mean it's slow in terms of like Mahomes' level of slow. So
right.
it's a pass rush on at least on play level comparable to what the Raiders just put out last night. So might be a tough day for Baltimore if that offense can't get going. Over-under scares me a little bit. I'm actually afraid that Baltimore is going to put up enough points to hit that total. Even if the Chiefs get up late and they play a little softer, they're gonna force Jackson to make plays, and you can't get down the field quicker than it's going to be harder to sustain drives and get down the field quicker if you're constantly taking off and running. You don't get the chunk plays that you do, for tossing it, 15, 20 yards downfield. So I don't know if Baltimore has the offense to push this game over. I'll be honest.
yeah, I don't know if they do either. I don't know if they have the, explosiveness and firepower to just chunk up a bunch of points.
And they lost. When you lose the running backs, they did. They lost a number. Their first round pick in Bateman, who I think is even shows more significance to him and for what Lamar Jackson and him can be. It's going to be tough sledding for Baltimore and for Baltimore fans. So,
yep.
Against the Chiefs, Nick Chubb was hyper efficient. Kareem Hunt was all right. Look, I'd be okay with starting Latavius Murray if you have to. I don't know that you're in a situation where you have to. Could be flex value, deeper leagues.
You're hoping that Baltimore can keep the game close enough for Taysom or for Tyson Williams to pay off.
Well, he doesn't have problems in pass pro again, so
yeah, I'm avoiding both. I think Lamar, Mark Andrews, because you probably have to, and maybe Marquise Brown. Sammy Watkins will have some flex value. The 8 targets coming off of the Raiders game, but
I think Sammy Watkins and the running backs all have flex value as you try to piecemeal a lineup. I just don't like him more is as
Yeah.
much as some other
I'm more
pieces.
afraid of games. I'm more afraid of seeing Williams get game scripted back out. And
Yeah.
and while Latavius got the snaps to work with, he looked. I know it's. You're right. He's new to
He
the
just got
offense,
there.
and we hopefully get better. That O line is hot garbage right now.
Yeah, and if he has to stay in the block, in this
And Lamar's
does go
not
how
checking
we
that ball
expected,
down.
then I'm going Sammy Watkins more so
Yeah.
than anything there.
Lamar's not checking that football down, so there's none of that.
Right.
That catch up check downs. There is no check downs there.
Indeed. And then Detroit Green Bay, 11.5-point spread, 48.5 over under.
Aaron Rodgers' revenge game in his own way.
In his own game, right. Aaron Rodgers coming off a bad game has a way to come back and have really good games. So it's Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, who had a good game in his own right anyway.
I think MVS. I think he had 8 targets in this Detroit game.
Well, that's probably why they didn't
Yeah,
do well last week.
he
You're
had.
targeting MVS 8 times.
He had more targets than Adams,
Yep. Well, that explains a lot.
but he looks like to be the. I won't even say clear 2. It's a clear
No.
3 receivers for him, Lazard and Adams. Should be better. Should be better at game script. Maybe you won't see it. Yeah,
Should be.
bounce back game for Adams.
In Detroit is Swift and Hawk and
Yeah.
Williams. Jamal Williams, speaking of revenge games.
So many revenge games.
A lot of revenge games.
This is the revenge of week 2.
So there we go. Hopefully you pluck some fantasy advice, some people to target there as we get through shit. That is the last game, right?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. We'll be back Sunday for all your start sit questions. So make sure that you gear those up and bring those to us, especially if you have multiple of those flex value players that we've mentioned. You don't need to replace somebody we suggested staying away from, et cetera, et cetera. We'll be back next week, probably another Tuesday show, given your wedding, if I had to guess.
Yeah, next week we'll go Tuesday because we'll be in Bloomington Wednesday. So we'll go again here on Tuesday, and Sunday it's a we'll see for me, but I should be there that Sunday.
I should
next week.
definitely be. So
Yeah,
We'll
I
play
think we'll be back home by then.
we'll play Sunday by ear, but we'll again another Tuesday show next week. We're gonna try to go Wednesdays in season, but with me being out of town and then Dan's wedding, which I'm part of, that'll be another Tuesday show. So be sure to tune in for
Jockey.
that. But right now, be sure to show up Sunday. We'll have get into prop bets a little more. We'll get into some start sit decisions, latest on injury news. So make sure, again, YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification icon. Beerfield on Twitter. I'm at Beerfield Hop. He's at Beerfield Thury.
And we will catch you next time.
See ya.